Something that I probably hadn't felt for a lot of years. I felt as though I had the will to live. I've only been an adult for 7 years now, so I'm only 20 years old, because for 35 years during that addiction I wasn't really a person. Now, I couldn't see what was happening, but I didn't know it at the time that all the staff had been talking to me and they said, we can't work with him anymore. One of two things is going to happen. You're going to lose your life. The gym's here. The gym's here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's you that's not. It started off from quite a young age, which was, mine started off quite innocently from a sports perspective, playing sports in teams and playing cricket. And then you know, it would be, when you were sort of 14, 15, as you progressed up through the teams, you started to play with the older guys. You would obviously be hanging around with the older chaps after the game, so you would, you know, you'd have a few shandies or whatever when you were a bit younger. And then as you got a little bit older, it would be a few beers. So you'd be playing on a Saturday, having a few beers Saturday night with the guys. Sunday would be off to play a friendly game somewhere in Northumberland, so that would always involve meeting at a pub somewhere in Northumberland, having a few pints there. So although it seems to start off quite harmlessly, you know, it was a couple of beers, and it soon turned into, rather than it just being a Saturday night, before you knew it, I was drinking 3 to 4, 5 times a week it could be. And although not in huge amounts, it was still enough every day. And then it just continued from there. Obviously, it didn't continue to the fact that I was drinking absolutely every single day when I was 18. You know, I did have to go off and got a job and things like that. But that then came with its own, because, you know, very much a drinking culture that we have in this country. What do people do after work? They go for a couple of pints after work. And you would probably say that a larger percentage of the country go for a couple of beers after work rather than go to the gym. And it was easy to convince yourself that I'll go to the gym tomorrow. I'll go and have a couple of beers with the lads tonight after work. It must have been a hard day at work. I should go and have a couple of pints. But if you asked a normal person in life, you say, you know, you said, after you finish work tonight, do you fancy going and pouring some poison down your neck? Or do you want to go to the gym? Because alcohol's a poison. It isn't anything else but. Now, I'm not saying that everybody shouldn't drink. That's not what I'm here to say. It's, if it doesn't affect your life, you know, and it's not driving people away and say, you know, you're only out once a month and it's a few beers with friends, you know, that sort of thing, that, and you can control it, it's fine. But it's when it becomes, it's starting to take over, and you'd rather be doing that than seeing somebody you love. For instance, I missed lots of birthday parties, weddings, anniversaries, all these things with people that I should have been with, because I'd rather have been drinking. So I missed out on a huge amount of life. I missed out on opportunities, you know, for travel, for work. It will strip you eventually of everything you've got. And, you know, the last thing that it does take, as we all know, is your life. I get lots of people asking me, oh, how did you know you were an alcoholic? You know, how do you, there's no, you don't turn up at the doctors and go, oh, right, you're an alcoholic, you know, there you go, stamp, that's your book stamped. So that's what you've got, there's the tablets you've got to take. It doesn't work like that. I would have periods of sobriety where, but that normally came about because I'd lost my job or something. You know, I'd been sacked or whatever because, you know, I hadn't been in for 3 days, or when I had turned up, I was drunk. So I would then go and find a new job, settle into that job, obviously not going drinking, not going, still playing cricket at the weekends, so keeping the drinking maybe to a Saturday night and a Sunday, but trying not to drink during the week. But then as soon as I got comfortable in that job and I'd sort of, right, my feet are under the table, I'm okay here, I was very good, I was very good at being deceitful, because that's what the alcohol made me do. It made me have to be deceitful so it would cover up what I was or wasn't doing at work, and mainly wasn't doing at work, producing what I was supposed to be doing. So it, that's, but then I would get to a point where I would feel comfortable, I'd get what I thought I wanted, everything's all right here, and then the drinking would literally tail up again. And then just as I thought, right, I could be out of a job, I could be getting sacked here, I'd look for another job first sometimes, or wait till I was sacked. And then of course, once I'd been sacked, I'd be sat in a bar, drinking a pint, thinking, why am I always losing my job? Yet in one hand, I've got what caused me to lose my job, but I couldn't make the connection between the two. And that's where alcohol's so powerful. It tricks you. What it did was it took me into chaos, into real chaos. Because when you're drinking and everything else, you push everything else to one side. So the people that you love, you will take alcohol over them, you will take drugs over them. They don't matter to you. I've got a very tight relationship with my brother now, but for years we only lived a few miles apart, but we barely saw each other. And it drove a wedge between us. He could see what it was doing to me, but no matter how much he told me what effect it was having, the alcohol was tricking me to thinking that he's just saying it. That's what you tend to think about the people around you that love you and point it out to you. You will believe the alcohol and the drugs over your own family. You are convinced by something that if you go and have a couple of me, you'll feel great. And yes, 2-3 pints, you might feel, I feel absolutely on top of the world. But it's the damage that it's causing. It's what it's doing underlying to you, because it's actually retraining your brain to think that the endorphins that it's being sent when you have alcohol or you take a drug, they're saying it's sending the right endorphins. And if you have more of this, you will be happier. Whereas that isn't the case. That's because it has totally tricked your mind into thinking that this is the right thing to do. Whereas now, once I've had a gym session, the endorphins that are being sent to my brain, to my receptors, are the actual pleasurable ones. That is what a good feeling is. And I can compare the two. The feeling I get from when I walk out the gym, or the feeling I get when I stagger out of a nightclub at 4 o'clock in the morning, are two very different things. But I was so convinced by alcohol and drugs that that was right for 35 years, and realizing I've been totally wrong for 35 years. When you're pretending that life's good because of the alcohol and everything, you convince yourself that everything is all right until that stops and everything falls apart around you. What the gym gives me, it gives me a sense of, this is good, this is all right. I get a feeling of calmness in the gym. I never get a feeling of being uptight, stressed, worried, anything like that. All I get from here is, I come in, and if there's somebody, a smiling face, hi there, how are you? And it is like that. I feel totally comfortable, at ease. Whereas if I walk into a bar to meet people, not that I'm uptight because there's alcohol there, and it's not like I've got PTSD, I can't go into a pub. I can go into the pub, but what's in there that's really positive to me? So I have to look for what positives I've got. And my positive always is, I'm going to see my mates. I know that when I walk through the doors of a gym, It's that positive atmosphere. Everybody who's here is here to be better. Nobody comes to a gym to get worse. Nobody's going to come up to you here and go, fancy a couple of pints and a line in the toilet. You know, that's not going to happen in here. Somebody's going to say, oh mate, you can do me a favour, come and spot me while I lift this, or could you give me a hand with this? And that's the thing. The more times you come in, you know, you get a little community. Start to talk to people. You know, I'm not saying you're coming here for a social event, but generally people in gyms are talking to each other. You know, I look round our gym in here and you'll see people, you know, my clients will talk to some of the other guys' clients or whatever, or if my clients are in by themselves, you know, they're already talking to people and stuff. So it's a good little community. It's you against yourself in here to a certain extent as well. You know, I'm not here, when I'm coming in to train, I'm not in competition with the guy next to me. I'm not looking at what he can lift or whatever. I think generally people in gyms are in it together. It's that sort of thing. You're in here to make yourself better. I'm in here to make myself better. You know, whereas egos, a lot of people are driven by ego outside of things. Certainly my thinking is a lot clearer, and I do see things from other people's perspective a lot more. For instance, the sort of thing that used to, for some reason, I had road rage. You know, when you're hungover to hell and you're trying to get to work and you're probably late because you've slept in, you get a massive amount of road, you know, get out of my way, what are you lot all doing, why are you driving like that? I find myself driving now, if something happens, I think to myself, you know, somebody's shouting and screaming out their car window, you think, poor fella's having a bad day today, isn't he? You know, and you look at things, I think, you look at it from the other perspective. You know, rather than getting angry at him, you tend to think something's happening for him, which is not great. And I can feel empathy for that person. It might be that they're hungover from the night before, or they're just having a bad day. But I tend to find if I'm having a bad day, I don't take it out on anybody else. I look at how I can sort my bad day out. You don't see it as a personal slight. You always think these things are just happening to you. Like you say, stubbing your toe. If you're stressed, harried, you know, and you're angry at life, when you stub your toe, as you say, it really does hurt even more. You'll probably smash the table up even, you could be that angry. But like you say now, if I get up and stub my toe, I just think, bugger mate, that was sore. But I stubbed my toe. Nobody put the table in the way. That table's been sat in my house in the same position for 5 years. It's my fault that I managed to kick it with my toe. The table didn't move and go, right, I'm going to put myself here. And that's the thing, it's perspective. The gym gives you a perspective on things, which is much better. Who's at the centre of everything that goes on in your world? Me. You know, the only person that lifted the drink and put the glass to my mouth was me. It wasn't somebody else. So I can't get mad at somebody else for it. I decided to pick it up. But whereas now I decide to come in and pick up something else, which might be a weight, it might be a dumbbell. But it's that sense of perspective. The gym's here. The gym's here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's you that's not.